Hello and welcome to this edition of 30 Mechanical Minutes. My name is Doug Picklick. I'm the editor of HPAC magazine. Today we're going to be talking about tankless water heaters. We're calling this one Continuous and Efficient, talking about tankless. I'm joined here today by Joshua Ferguson, technical sales with Barclay Sales. Josh has over 25 years in the industry as a Red Seal plumber and gas fitter and has plenty of experience with tankless water heaters. Our focus today is going to be mostly about residential applications, but we'll also touch on some light commercial as well. So hi, Josh, and thanks for joining us today.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Morning for Josh. It is 3
Yes,
o'clock here on the Eastern, but Josh is in just outside of Calgary. So it's nice to have some Western Canadian contributions here on 30 Mechanical Minutes. We're just going to jump right into this. We're talking tankless. Okay, so Josh, I know tankless water heaters, it's nothing new. They've been on the market for many years. They've offering obvious benefits, I think, to homeowners over traditional tank water heaters. And I know although they might have a more expensive upfront cost, they can save space because these wall-mounted units, they are, well, they say they're more efficient. I'm going to have you confirm that for me. And of course, they offer that continuous hot water. So once it starts running, you never run out. Now, you've been active in this trade since the early 2000s. So maybe just share with us, what was your first experience with tankless water heaters?
Well, I'm a journeyman plumber gas fitter, like you said before. I've been in the industry for a really long time. I had my own company for about 14 years as well too. So from apprentice to installer to company owner to now on the rep side, I've kind of seen both sides of the tail of the tape, I guess is what you'd call it. So my first introduction was really we kind of created our own tankless. One of my first jobs as an apprentice was installing smaller super hot boilers for in-floor heating in larger estate homes. And we had a client who wanted instant hot water to wash his cars and his motorbikes and to fill up his hot tub. So we did a little takeoff off the little boiler loop there and just had a flat plate exchanger with a flow switch, and it worked like a charm for his application. I was also involved in the first few waves of tankless being introduced to Canada, which left a little bit of a sour taste in people's mouths, to be completely honest. It's really tough where we are, especially in Alberta. We've got some of the coldest groundwater temperatures, as well as some of the, not the greatest water quality in certain areas as well too. So the manufacturers over the past 20 plus years have really overcome that hiccup, I guess I would say, from their first soiree with tankless. So
Okay, fair enough. So, basically, I mean, we see mostly the gas-fired tankless is what I think I see mostly out there. I believe there's electric options as well, but gas is seems like the way to go. And often, if it's in a retro situation or a replacement for a gas-fired tank water heaters. So let's talk about that idea of endless hot water. As an installer, what do you have to consider before every installation? And let's start with just like, how do you properly size these units, a tankless unit?
yeah, so initially we go in, there's not really a one size fits all. It's a one size fits most of your category that you're selling for as a contractor. I initially always had a first fast five with any of my clients. My clients, when I was a contractor, looked at to me as their advisor. Now on the rep side, I'm the advisor of contractors. So having gone through the hiccups and issues, I always tell them they're the fast five. So one, where is the tankless made? Does the company manufacture itself, or is it a rebrand or an OEM? What type of exchanger does it have? Copper, aluminum, stainless steel? Is it a mixture of both? Is it a one piece, two piece? And then number five, which I think is the most important, is does it perform like the sales sheet says it does? So once you've kind of associated those fast five, you've got your next five, which is your calculations of how to give your customer the hot water they deserve. So we need to know the entering water temperature in the worst case scenario of that area of that household or business. What the desired outlet temperature is. So if it's a residential application, 120 to 130. If it's a commercial application, 160 plus. Some commercial kitchens and say slaughterhouses need a sterilization of 180 to 185 degrees. And then we need to figure out the average maximum load at one time. So a household could only need 3 to 4 gallons a minute, where a laundromat could require 40 gallons a minute. So, the average residential shower is only about 1.6 to 1.8 gallons a minute nowadays with all new fixtures. So then we take our BTU load of our tankless. We've got a little calculation of the BTU input divided by our temperature rise times 500. So a typical tankless now gas fired is about 199,000 BTUs. A 70-degree temperature rise equals about 35,000. So it gives us about 5.7 gallons a minute is what you'd be looking for in the optimal times. And then in the coldest of times, you'd be around, 4 to 4.5 gallons a minute there. So.
Okay, and that's adequate. I mean, so you're doing things like how many bathrooms do I have and all that kind of stuff when you're
Yeah, and just
figuring out.
mitigating the customer's expectations. Most tanklesses in the area, you can do a shower, dishes, laundry. There's some tanklesses on the market where you can do two showers, dishes, laundry, a kitchen faucet, and an accessory bar faucet at the same time. So it just depends on your degree of need as well as the costs that you want to put into it as well too.
Because when you're buying these units, you buy it by size, like by like a boiler, like the
Yeah,
BTU
the
size,
BTU load. So
BTU load.
our
Yeah.
market, there's typically two sizes, either 180,000 or 199,000. And that's kind of the difference between standalone house and townhouse type thing or a condo.
Okay. Okay. Now you'd mentioned this already, but water quality issues. So you mentioned like the entering temperature is is important. You need to know that, and then
Yep.
also the quality of the water.
Water quality is increasingly becoming more prevalent and more important to manufacturers to discuss that. They've seen the issues that hard water or bad water quality can leave with those systems.
Yeah.
So making sure, I think the lowest rate of any tankless on the market that I've seen is about 15 grains per gallon of hardness or less. You would be required to do some sort of softening or at least pre-filtering for that water as well too. We have to understand that the exchangers on these tanklesses are so small. Sometimes the flow passageways are as small as 3/8. So if we've got any particulates or calcium deposits or iron deposits, we want to make sure that that's passing through the system and not getting caught. And that's where your maintenance regime comes into as well.
Right. Okay. We're going to touch on that in a minute. So, when it comes to tankless units, um, my understanding now, and this is, I assume that this is a national, uh, what does they call that? The MAPS, the minimum efficiency, whatever. They need to be condensing units.
Yes. Yeah. In Canada, they all have to be condensing units now.
Right.
So we have to find somewhere for that condensate to go. So we're doing certain situations where a floor drain is in a different area than the mechanical room. So condensate pumps, condensate neutralizers are very important. Determining what type of piping system they have in the ground that goes out to the city water. Does your jurisdiction require a condensate neutralizer because it's highly acidic? You're getting close to complete combustion, and a byproduct of that is your condensation, but it's highly acidic. So if you're dumping down into cast piping all the time and you don't have a great refresh rate on that P trap, well, eventually it's going to be just acidic condensate and it'll wear away at that cast P trap. If you've got plastics for piping as well too,
Yeah.
sometimes the city wants you to have some neutralization in certain areas as well. So
Okay. So the neutralization of the condensing and then also venting. So if it's a retrofit situation, say people are taking out a tank that's maybe B vented or um, what what's the situation there? We're drilling holes through the side of the
yeah,
wall.
so a lot of people ask, oh, it's a tankless. Is it easier? It's not necessarily easier to install, but once you get kind of a rhythm down, it all works itself out. Like one of my first jobs as an apprentice when I came back to Calgary full time was installing natural draft hot water tanks. I was just on a hot water tank truck. I got good enough where I could get most of the houses, none crazy obstructions, but I could be in and out of a house in 45 minutes. That's billed to a customer. So drained, new tank installed, good to go. That's pre-press tools, that's soldering, making sure everything's squared away on straight copper. But sometimes you get those difficult ones where it takes 6 to 8 hours to do one tank rather than 6 to 8 per day. New tankless installs have a few variables like the high efficient venting, lengths, grades. Centrally located mechanical rooms are a bit tougher because you either have to go sidewall, but they do have flexible venting from certain manufacturers now where you can go through that B vent. It's just making sure you've got room for a furnace or an air handler or something like that in the future as well too. So there's lots of different variables when it comes to what you need to fit into this small space that you're promising your customer now.
Right, right. Okay. Here's something I've heard about with it seems to be a specific to tankless, but the idea of the cold sandwich.
Yeah, not the
Um,
sandwiches we like to have. We just had one about an hour ago here.
yeah,
My mom going.
this
But cold water sandwich is something that's prevalent to either a lot of time electric tanks or tanklesses actually. So cold water sandwich happens a couple different ways. So one is initial startup. When you're first firing up that unit, you've got some water that's from the tankless all the way to the farthest fixture, and that has to evacuate. So you get a buffering of hot water mixed in between there. Um, some tanklesses have a specific flow path in the way that they've engineered their design. So they really only have about 10 or 15 minutes of optimal performance before they will creep into a bit of a cold water sandwich situation. Also, if you're using more gallons per minute than your unit can serve, say you're doing 4 showers at a time when your unit can only handle two, you'll get some cold water sandwich effect there. Or if you've got scale and debris buildup either in your exchanger, in your water piping system, in an aerator or a shower screen as well too, that can cause some flow restriction, which can cause the unit to fire on and fire off and have some cold water issues. Um, the cold water sandwich, the biggest issue you have other than the discomfort factor is really its detrimental effect on tanklesses that have a two-piece exchanger. The cold water sandwich is shocking that exchanger and it's causing a bit of a deflection. So you'll notice that if you see a tankless with a failed exchanger, it's usually on the two front points of that two-piece exchanger. And that's where you'll typically get a failure rate on that one. So
okay. And just I'm sure people know it, but the cold water sandwich is that idea. You step into the warm shower, and then all of a sudden you get blasted with cold water before the
yeah.
hot water comes back. So I think we've explained like so what actually like are the newer systems doing something to mitigate?
Yeah, so a lot of time the best way to mitigate it is either a buffer tank or a recirc line. Now, some people will say, "Oh, I don't have a recirc line, I don't have this, I don't have this." Like sometimes the recirc line can be part of the problem of the cold water sandwich as well too, where some of these tanklesses have built-in pumps, or you're using an external pump that's running a higher gallon per minute than what can handle with either one or two showers at a time. So it's important to make sure that your recirculating system has either a timer or some sort of a push button. Um, an internal recirc to a tankless is a very hot topic for a lot of
Yeah,
people, but that is only beneficial if you have a dedicated recirc line. With proper tanklesses, the way that they've been constructed and installed, you shouldn't have to have that recirc model to meet your GPM. You might need that to get to the distance you need to go or to have that pre-primed hot water, but it's not necessarily needed right away. Existing homes that are looking for an upgrade to a recirc line on a retrofit, you can actually get these little kits that are like a Grundfos closely spaced T that turn your cold water into a recirc line. Um, that way you don't have to cut open a bunch of drywall, but it does come with some some issues because, during that recirc time, you're turning your cold water into hot water. But also, those systems are typically installed with either like a push button timer or a sensor as you walk into a room where, a schedule will turn on 15 minutes before you kind of would need it on a most regular basis, like your shower in the morning or laundry and kitchen time for dinner. Um, but some of them you just have a push button timer that'll turn on for 15 minutes, and as soon as it turns off, you're kind of good to go. Wake up, brush your teeth, do your business, jump in the shower, you should be good to go. So
Okay. So that recirc, I mean, it's a little bit on the homeowner, right? If you know
yeah,
you've got that recirc line, you turn it on, there's ways to make
yeah.
that happen.
If you're building a new house, pay the couple extra $100 to get the recirc line put in, even if you're not going to pay for the pump or the unit that is capable internally for it. But you'll thank us when you
Yes.
review this later, and then you're down the road going, man, it just takes a couple extra minutes to get, because your mechanical room could be basement far into one house, could be a 3,500 square foot house, and then
Yeah.
upstairs the farthest passageway is the ensuite. How do
Yeah.
you get that water there as quick as possible? You'd have to have that recirc. So
Yeah. Okay. Now, one of the when sometimes people are talking about the benefits of tankless over tanks, and they talk about that tankless units are just going to last longer. And now I know newer systems are, promoting like stainless steel heat exchangers and the like. And I think you like that idea. But
we do.
the tankless also require maintenance. You kind of brought this up, the idea of flushing, descaling. So who's doing that? And and how has that actually has
Yeah.
that flushing mechanism or the way it's done become a little bit easier or different than in the
Yeah.
past?
Who's doing the service? The we're still trying to figure out who's responsible for that right now in a lot of places
Okay.
where, mechanical rooms have traditionally been a set it and forget it room.
Yeah.
It heats your house, it gives you the water, but you don't ever go in there. It's where I store my Christmas decorations. It's where, some things fly under the door. That's where the laundry room might be. You just keep it out of my sight, out of my mind. Well, a tank style tank typically will last you about 7 to 10 years. But or say 8 to 12 years typically. Um, but it reheats 7 to 10 times a day, even when you're not using it. So it's just continually trying to heat up that water in that tank. Where a tankless only fires up when you turn that tap on and require that hot water. So just on the gas savings alone from a standing pilot light or a reheating system to something that is only used when it's needed, over the lifespan of the unit, it'll traditionally pay itself back. We see natural draft tanks about 8 to 12 years. Power vent tanks are 7 to 10 years. If you're buying a good quality tankless from a reputable company and a reputable wholesale and a reputable contractor,
Yeah.
and you're doing regular service, that should last you 15 to 20 years easily on a tankless. And we still have units that are out there today that I installed 20 years ago as an apprentice that are just getting changed out now. So the technology is there. You just, I wouldn't do an oil change on my car once every 5 years. So the maintenance
Yeah.
is a part of it. There's a lot more sensors, there's a lot more situations there, and just water quality in your own area. Just because the city in your area or your town or your county is treating that water, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're still getting the best quality water to not have to maintain that system.
Yeah. So the tankless system, I mean, really, this is a good maintenance. The idea of the maintenance plan, the contractor setting up maintenance plan with their customers, this
Yeah.
is a
So
real,
a lot of the tanklesses, it really depends on your level of how many hammers have you picked up in your life, really. If you're comfortable with doing a service yourself, you own that product, that's yours, you can do it. I know in Ontario specifically, you're a lot bigger into the rental market just for cost of home ownership as well as the rental market. So some contractors will say, well, we installed it. If you don't get a service contract, our warranty is void because it's a highly specified appliance that you shouldn't be touching. It just all depends on the level that the customer really sees it. But once a year, you should have that maintenance checkup. Get your plumbing and HVAC doctor out to come take a look at your heart and the system and the lifeblood of your house. Right?
yeah.
You'll you'll thank yourself when your neighbor calls and goes, "Can we come over for dinner? We have no heat or hot water." So
And in terms of I mean, the process, can you like
Yeah, every
One at a
manufacturer
time
has
or
their
just
own
oh,
particular way that they like to see it and do it.
okay.
Traditionally, it's typically a flush of the system anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, making sure you're checking through sensors, your flame sensors, your igniters, making sure the dip switches are set properly. There's no obstructions in your venting, that your gas pressure incoming is still sufficient and that hasn't changed. We could have issues with a meter outside, a gas meter outside that's causing problems that it might not necessarily be the appliance, right? So
Okay.
it's making sure that the system is staying healthy.
And is it a warranty issue as well? I mean,
So most manufacturers will look in there and say if you haven't serviced your unit, you would basically look at what that is. So
potential
in
issues. Yeah. Okay.
one big thing on the warranty that we didn't talk about actually was the what type of warranties you have. So there's a heat exchanger warranty. There is a parts warranties for the accessory parts outside of the exchanger. There's a runtime warranty, which most people don't even look at. They say, oh, 10 years, 15 years, that's it. But it's actually amount of cycles and burner time that can happen as well, too. So the units that have internal recirc tanks, internal buffeting tanks, they're going to run through their warranty much quicker than a unit that doesn't have a recirc as well, too. The other one is a labor warranty. Does that manufacturer give you a time framed labor warranty? So in all of the manuals, my biggest thing when I go through trainings is RTFM, read the freaking manual, because it's the only way you're going to get right from the horse's mouth the
Yeah.
information you need. And every manufacturer will have a different warranty set of whatever grains per gallon hardness, if it has never been serviced. The units that we sell, I can go and install, I can plug in a specific controller and I can look and say, sorry, Mrs. Smith, it's been 475 days since your last service. You know, you really do need that taken care of as well, too. So,
Well, I think this leads into this next question that I've been seeing more ads for tankless units from a variety of vendors. And now I'm seeing things with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity to these units. Just wondering what are the benefits of this?
so Wi-Fi is great for a tech savvy client, or a client that just wants to be notified of either a cleaning schedules, how they can adapt their recirculating schedule via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, or if they want to be notified immediately if there's an issue with the unit. Some units can flash up with a contractor's phone number. Some units can actually notify a contractor directly as well too if there's an issue. So some of the boilers that we represent, we've got Wi-Fi capability where if there's an issue, I was calling my homeowner before they even knew there was a problem. Hey, your vent's
Yeah,
frosted up. Go take a look. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, their storage tank would still have an hour or two worth of hot water that they wouldn't even notice until, it's much later. So the Wi-Fi connectivity isn't a necessity, but as our life gets more connected to the appliances, our vehicles, different applications that we use on a day-to-day for productivity, it's nice having that comfort that you're taken care of, and you're at work at the office and the family's at home, and it's nice for you to get notified and be able to call the contractor and let everyone at home deal with their schedules. They're busy getting kids to school, to sports, to whatever else may be, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. Okay, very good. I'm just going to see here. We've got a few questions, so I'm going to jump to those and see if we can answer some of these questions. Um, how does it work on your dishwasher that needs a higher temperature to properly clean the dishes? So this is you actually talked about uh, maybe like light commercial applications where you need hotter water, or perhaps dishwashers that need hotter water.
yeah, typically most tanklesses will have a residential setting that's between 120 and 140 is kind of their cap off mark. Some units will allow you to go into a commercial mode in a residential application or having to install that mode there. It all depends on how your house is set up. You can turn your tankless up much higher if you'd like to get better, temperature in those dishes as well too. It just really depends. You got to make sure you've got some thermostatic control for the rest of the house. So most single handle shower valves all have built-in thermostatic control. All single handle faucets have built-in thermostatic control, but we just got to be cautious. Anything over 120 degrees, your risk of third degree burn is quite quick. So if you had that unit at 180, you're less than a second to get third degree burns, and got to be careful with little hands running around those places. So we have seen certain people that have a much higher version of some sort of a Bosch dishwasher or some sort of high-end brand where they require a higher temperature.
Mhm.
Typically, they would install a little electric tank or tankless under their sink to supply a higher temperature directly just to that dishwasher because it needs a
Yeah.
very small amount of water. So it's just you can do it with a regular tankless. Just how does that set up there? So
Right. Yeah, it's those little units that you can put under the sink or what have you. Yeah, those are good ones. Okay. Um, my gas tanked hot water heater has a pilot light, so I still get hot water when the electricity goes out. My understanding is that most tankless gas water heaters have an electric sparker. Are there tankless heaters that still operate during an electrical outage?
the best way to look at an electrical outage is preparation, your own preparation. So my household, we've got a natural gas backup generator. We've also got Jackery power packs. So realistically, if you had a Jackery power pack, you could, or whatever battery power pack you like, the flavor of Amazon's sale of the day, you can go on, plug that unit into it, and you'll still have hot water. Your water is still going to work on pressure if the electricity goes out. You can take your actual cord and plug it into that, and the tankless will still work. So the pilot light itself won't keep the water hot. It's the actual unit that's refiring with the gas that will. So anything that's electrically controlled will be an issue with those ones. So
Yeah. So a tankless, yeah, it's not going to fire up in an electrical outage. You need electricity in the, okay.
same thing as if your gas meter freezes up and fails, you got no gas. If it's dark and not windy, you're not going to have electricity either. If you got solar or wind on your property either. So
Okay.
those those dead dinosaurs in the ground will last us for a little while longer, I think. So
Okay. So I assume most of your statements pertain to gas systems, which is true. That's what we've been talking about primarily today. But do they also apply to electric? Please point out the differences, especially water quality and temperature issues and maintenance issues with an electric water heater as well, tankless.
electric hot water tanks, whether they're a tank or a tankless style, are mostly an immersed probe style. So that would be where the element is actually in the water pathway. That leads to different areas can have different things. Most electric tankless models are a point of use model. So similar to like a European style where they would have one in the kitchen, one in the bathroom, one in a different area. In North America, we're much more centrally located for our mechanical rooms. It reduces the amount of cost as well as we have a lot more space to build. So electric tanklesses, although they are a great idea, electric boilers, they're not necessarily going to put you through with the rate that you can handle. Electricity heats water 50% shorter than gas does. So like a gas tankless will heat your water 50% quicker on an average basis. So when we're looking at overcoming that groundwater temperature, most electric tanklesses won't be able to overcome or have a much larger refresh rate. But the maintenance is actually the same, whether you have a tank or a tankless. You should be flushing that tank once a year to get rid of that debris, flush that tankless, make sure you've got a bit of a solution that can help break down those particulates, and then flush it clean before you actually go through and provide that consistent hot water for your clients as well too. The
Okay.
the big problem with us in Alberta as opposed to different areas is 99% of our electricity is from natural gas pretty much out here. We do have a bit of solar and wind that are available to fill the grid, but not in a most reliable way. So when we look at an electric tank, it's approximately about 60% efficient when you install it. We get 60% transmission loss from generation of power to the household. So when you look after the first year of having an electric tank, that thing is only 36% efficient from power generation to in the household after 1 year, where a tankless is 97% efficient. We only have a 3% efficiency loss. So we're really trying to save the planet, but at a proper way. There's different ways in different markets in different areas. If you've got lots of hydro availability for electric power, that's a booster. If air to water heat pumps work really well in your area for most of the season, that's perfect. But areas like us, we get minus 52 this year with the wind chill as our coldest temperature. And you're going to have a boiler or some sort of a gas fired appliance backup when it
Yeah.
comes to that type of electrical power needed, right? So
Yeah. Okay. Someone asked, can you add a small tank to deal with time delay for reaching the farthest taps?
yeah, so we've installed point of use base little 5 gallon storage electric tanks that are underneath the counter. We can do a buffer tank underneath that tankless as well too. Traditionally, when tanklesses came into the market, they knew they couldn't overcome, so they were feeding a tankless into a tank where they'd only have either one element as a backup. But those are options there as well too.
And that's instead of a recirc, like that's
Yep, instead of a recirc. So basically, as your cold water comes into under that sink, it would go into the hot, would go into the cold side of that tank, and then the hot would go out to your hot. So you always have that pre-primed water that's ready to go. And then as your water evacuates, it just mixes with that pre-hot water and gives you a bit of a buffer. So
yeah. Okay. I think I think
I think
that's about
I
it.
think the next question, Ivan's just being funny. I'll call you later, Ivan. I know we
Yeah,
know numbers.
I don't think that has anything to do with our tankless water heaters today. So
Yeah, exactly.
but thank you for watching and for participating. All right.
Absolutely.
I think that's about it. So Josh, thank you so much for participating in today's 30 mechanical minutes. Um,
Absolutely.
the
If
time
anyone
did
across Canada or the US has any questions, I'm more than happy to reach out. Uh, jferguson at barclaysales.com. Easy to go.
awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And actually, before we leave, I did want to uh, draw attention to our HPAC magazine hydronics installation contest. This is the fourth annual Sweet Heat contest sponsored by MCO. This year, there's three categories: residential new builds, residential retrofits, and commercial installations. So keep snapping those photos of your hydronics installations and check out our website at hpacmag.com to see how you can enter that. Okay. I think that's just about it. I want to let people know that a recording of this session will be on the hpacmag.com website in the days to come. And you'll find past episodes of 30 Mechanical Minutes also under the webinars section on our website. You'll find it on the homepage there. And plus, we do have a YouTube channel, which you can search under the at HPACMag, and what do they say? Like and subscribe. So be sure to check out that as well. So until next time, again, Josh, thank you. We'd love to have you back sometime. And for everyone
Anytime,
who
my friend.
joined us today, thanks for joining. And we'll see you next time.